Alrighty, Julio, so here we go. First off, whenever we drag it out, we always come to the back, and that's because your mesh is turned around. If you ever want to check that, if you ever want to check the orientation of your mesh, say you've gotten this far, go to preview, and you can see right here that it's turned around. So if we want to fix that without, grabbing our transpose line and doing it manually, here, instead of doing that, what we can do is just flip this around right here under preview. So it's right under Geometry HD preview, and then press store after we've made a change, and it'll just do it for us. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to smooth out right here, and then I'm just going to get my Z remesher guides and put those right there. Okay. And don't want them right there. Alright, so something like that. And right here, right there. Let me try a smaller brush. Nope. Alright, we'll just have to do it manually. Good thing we only have to cross just beyond halfway, or just meet in the middle. So we got that, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to auto groups. Auto groups. And then separate that. Separate the lenses from the body. Okay. And then BZR. That out. That out. So there we go. Alright, so now I'm going to go to Z remesher. 5,000 is fine. Now we got that. Okay. Alright, so we are going to get a nice large brush size and get his posture right, because I see you, I don't know if I think you've used this image before as reference. And if you want that, you can see he's leaning hips forward. So you got to get the posture right if you want to get the anatomy right. And smooth that out. And let's see. The next thing we're going to fix is this wrist here. Just make sure it's the correct width. Right, so we are going to dig in the armpit. Let me use my damn standard to mark this in. Right here. And shoulder's probably going to be right there. Just marking it in. Then I'm going to mark in the bicep right here. And the problem with this bicep is that the peak is in the middle. So I like to put the peak right here. And smooth the transition. And then we're going to fill in the lats right here. And even though it's kind of bulky right now, the great thing about ZBrush is that you can make all these shapes and then you can make it work for you. So you can use your move brush after you've made the shapes needed to illustrate the anatomy, and then you can make it whatever you want. So if we look at the chest right here, the problem that we have is that there's no depression separating the chest and the shoulder. See that difference? Right? So you're going shoulder, well, actually from before, that was you before, okay? So it was dipping in a little bit, right? So you had the bright idea. But we just need to have the chest come out a little bit more. And fill in that area. This tricep right here, we need to fill in the back third. So I'm just going in a V pattern right here and then smoothing it out. Because from the elbow all the way to the to where the tricep comes here into this into the three heads, it's just pretty much flat. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is separate my tricep from my shoulder. So right now I'm kind of like deciding where all this anatomy is going to go, because it seems like I have pretty much free reign on what I want to do. So I'm just going to mark it in again, just so I can refresh my memory. And marking in the pit, going to trace that all the way around into the shoulder, right? Well, that's a little bit too much. Right about there. Then we're marking the brachialis. A little too much. And then I'm going to mark in, I always forget this name, but where your wrist is, then inside of your forearm. So right here, the problem with your wrist is that I am pressing W and then holding Control and then drawing a line, and it's going to trace a mask along my topology. Then I'm going to dip it down and give it a little bit more natural rotation. And I often like to have the, if I press this circle, it's going to give it to me right in the center, what you kind of want, right? And I want to twist this into pronated instead of the supinated that you had. All right, so now I'm going to sculpt this, smooth it out. All right. And the next problem we have is that the wrist isn't wide enough. Okay, so I'm using my move brush, putting it where I want it to be. So another thing we got to remember whenever we're marking in, or whenever we're sculpting our bony landmarks, is especially here on the elbow. So we got the elbow, and straight to this right here at the outside wrist bone. It's pretty much a flat plane right here. It's just straight bone. So you can have a little confidence knowing that's a little bit of a straight line. So you can beef this up a bit. And beef that. Okay. And then dig this in over here into the wrist. I'm going to turn that off because we don't need that anymore. Okay. And feather, invert, and just going to put this in better position. Okay. And smooth it. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is pick up this tricep and put it into the lat, and then keep using my move tool. Okay. I'm going to dig in the armpit a bit more. Now that we have our anatomy a little bit more established, we can start filling in some areas. So I'm going to mark this. If you feel, so you feel your elbow, right? You know, like if you're going to elbow someone in the face, you know, got that bit right there. Right, so just lay your arm out, right, palm up, and on each side of your elbow is pretty much like a cylinder going straight through that. So that's going to be on each side of your elbow, right? A cylinder's going through the elbow, okay? Or a cylinder is the joint that the elbow sits on, right? Okay, and your elbow is connected to your forearm. It's not connected to your bicep or your tricep, right? It moves with your forearm. Okay, and that joint is pretty much a cylinder that rests right there. Okay, so I'm trying to just imagine it in my mind while I'm explaining it to you. So hopefully that wasn't. That was useful. But anyway, so we can put that cylinder on each side of there. And let's start. Marking in the triceps. So the tricep's going to go into the elbow, right? So we have that here. And we'll pretty much just fan that out. I'm going to go a little bit higher res so we can start marking stuff in. You can start seeing it, right? So you have the tricep, comes from here, goes right there, right? So we're going to have the shoulder, and that's going to rotate back over here and attach to our clavicle. And then we have this acromion process right here. It's this little flat area, right? And then we have the shoulder coming right here, attaching to the collarbone. And now we can mark in our collarbone, our clavicle, right there. So now that we have that, we can mark in our neck. And now we know the trapezius comes from here, and it attaches to the acromion process. So you can see how many muscles depend on that acromion process. Then we're going to mark a line straight down the middle of the back. That's going to be the spine area. So now we have the scapula that comes in. I'm going to look at this again. Allow me to get my reference out. All right, Julio. I don't know everything, Julio. Being so judgmental. Okay, so here we go. Okay. So we're going to have the scapula that comes right here. And that's going to attach right here to the acromion process. And since we have the arms raised up at this position at a 90-degree angle, our scapula actually isn't going to be as it normally is. It's going to be rotated. Okay, the max it'll be rotated is about 30 degrees. Right, so we got that. And that's coming up into there. Okay, this is a bone I'm marking it. Okay. And now that we have that, we can start blocking in the back. So we have this, you have it coming out, but it actually goes in. Right here, the 7th vertebrae that you're trying to mark. Right, and let's fix this. Let's just go from the top, right? From the very top, low res. Okay. So I'm going to solo this. And so let's take a look at it. All right, it looks like he's saying what's up. You know, like he's in the middle of what's up. He's fully back, right? So I'm going to choose mask lasso so I can get more organic selection instead of using the standard box selection. I'm going to feather that, invert it, feather it, rotate. Oh, that's nice. So he looks forward, and then put the head forward. So it looks weird right now, right? We're going to fix all this. Now I'm going to take this in the direction that I want the neck to go. Alright, so now we're going to look at it from the top, make sure it's wide enough. Make sure, maintain that the front of the face is going to be smaller than this angle right here, right? This one. That's going to be right there. Now we're going to look at the back. So we can see it goes up right here, and then it starts swooping back. So we don't want that. We want it to go the opposite way. And pull this angle. So what I'm looking for is that angle, flat angle, and this angle, right? A little bit more here. And then, so now we got this swoop, right? And we don't want that. What we don't want is this curve right here, underneath here. We make sure we have this coming out. Automatically looks more natural. Smooth. Move this back. And now I'm going to square off the head. Right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating my polygroups. Right? W. And it doesn't matter how sloppy they are right now. I'm not looking for that. Oops. Invert. Oops. Invert. There we go. Alright, so now I have my head, my arms, my body, and my legs. This is how I like to have it. So I can focus on each body part. I can just boop, focus on it, and it's there, right? So let's look at the torso, because the torso is the main part, right? So I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about how this particular interpretation of Spider-Man looks. I'm not trying to get this. What I'm trying to do is get correct anatomy. I'm using this for inspiration, okay? So I don't need this right now. What I need is just anatomy knowledge. Bring this back. Okay. So we're going to look at the ribcage. It needs to be flattened a bit. And now I'm going to mark in the lats. Bring that down. I'm going to mark in my great trochanter. Comes out. There's my hip. Now I know that goes down into there. Now I know my rib cage comes from here, and my obliques come directly from my rib cage. And now I have to fix the shape of the obliques, because you see how it goes in and comes out, and it's all inconsistent. Alright, so I'm going to get a good brush size. I'm just going to fill in that. Right? And then do that. Right? Fill that in. So now this is my tailbone right here. And now the problem with this ass is that it's too square. Okay? So first thing I'm going to do is mark the mark its insertion points. Okay? And get this off so we can stop being so confusing. So now the peak of any butt is going to be in towards the center, and then it's going to taper off. Right? It's a muscle, and in that book it really shows you how to sculpt this area. Right? So go here, and it comes into that great trochanter until we get our quad right here. I think that's what it's called. Quad. Yeah. Right. And then in between right here is pretty much nothing. Right. It's just a space, especially on someone as fit as Spider-Man. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is and pick up my reference. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the hip flexors right here, and that's going to come down into right next to our great trochanter, and then come up like that. Okay, and then smooth it out. Okay, so let's fix this groin and abdomen area. Smooth that out. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit too much, so let's smooth that out. Smooth that out. So you can see all the forms that we're getting. And it's just a process, just me marking stuff in, making sure it's there. Right? So I'm gonna come back up here so you can see how far I went down, right? Just marking stuff in. Because one leads into the other. Alright, so we're gonna go back here and we're going to sculpt in the trapezius. And that goes around, like it all attaches right here into the seventh vertebrae that you were marking in. But you have a depression first, and then that bone comes out, is framed by that depression. Okay. Smooth that out. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to draw, let me mark it in first. Right, so it attaches right here to the chroming process and comes down in a nice little V pattern right about there to that dot. Okay. And so now we need to fill in this area. So what I'm going to do is see how the muscle attaches to the body. And it comes out this way, right? And it attaches right there. We're going to fill in this area. And what we're looking for is we're looking to beef up everything while giving a depression down the center. Right? So I'll get my form soft brush. I'm going to get a good brush size. And I'm going to start digging that in. Just to keep maintaining it, because I'm going to build this up and I might lose it. And in that instance, I did. So beef. Right. We'll go down to the low subdivisional level and then adjust my forms. So this neck is going into my trap, and what I need is a neck and then a trap. Right? It's a trap! It's a trap! Right? So there we go. Move that down, and now we've lost our cylindrical neck. So I'm going to put that back into play. Smooth out the transition. Right? And so when the trap attaches to the chromium process, there's going to be a raise right there. Well, let's frame the trap first. The problem is that this is in the way, and there's always a space here. Right? So now it's not in the way. Get that out. Smooth. Right? So come back, beef that back up, and up the neck. Right? So I have room for my what is it? Sternomyoclastoid, I think it is. I always have problems pronouncing that one, but it's there. And now we're going to frame the Adam's apple with the neck, right? Depression, and it goes a little bit deeper than you think, right? And that's where your Adam's apple goes into and disappears. Okay. I think we're going to do that face like that. Right there. Right there. Beef that up. Right? Next thing is eyes. Next is the skull. Then move this back. And now use my move brush, put it where I want it. Use my form soft, push this cheek back. Follow that around. Beef up the chin because I just lost it. And mark all this in, right? Fix this transition right here from the jaw. It's a little wobbly. Smooth that out. Get a big brush and just fade all that in. Fade all that in. Right? Now this is a little bit too consistent for that muscle. It does beef up around here and then thins back out. So I'm just going to round it off a bit, focusing on the center and then smoothing it out. See much more natural that looks. Smooth that transition out and space. Right? A little bit too much right there. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the collarbone because it's a little bit too high. And this is going in a bit, and what I want is for it to come out. but I don't want it to be in the middle. I want it to be more right here next to the jaw and then coming in. Okay. And it's a bit too wide. And I'm just pulling most of this down because it's too high. Marking this jaw. Okay. So now I can push that jaw in a bit because it's bowing out a bit too much for Spider-Man. There's a little bit of an egghead action going on. And his back third is pretty accentuated. Now we can just smooth all this out because you're going to put the and give this a bit of a raise, right? And then we'll check our forms still. Even though it's a mask, we still need to check our forms. Make sure it's all there. So that's what we have. And you see the difference? See how it looks like a hawk instead of a face of a human being? So I'm pushing forward the cheeks. Okay. So now after I've sculpted all this, the head's kind of small. Alright, so we go down to the low subdivision level, mask lasso, smooth, or fade, sorry. I'm going to drag out my action line and increase it a bit. Right, so that's a bit more like it. So next thing I'm going to do is raise the groin a bit. It's a little too low. And I'm also going to spread these legs out because they're going in a bit too much. That's a bit better. It looks weird right now, but it won't after we fix everything. A little too anatomically correct. Okay, so here we go. Smooth that out. Right, and still fixing this. So looks like torso's a bit too long right there in the obliques area. Raise that up. A little bit. And the calves might be a bit too long as well. A bit better. Okay. So smoothing out a lot of these forms. And so right here, everything's like broken. So we got to bring that towards the center and smooth it out. Smooth it out. And then get my form soft brush. Add in the hamstrings. calves. My depression behind the knee, right? And then my calves go into that. My hamstrings go, I'm going to go up a little bit. Okay. So hamstrings right here. I get a better angle on that. Hamstrings go right there. And split there. So along this, it goes in. Not abnormally, right? So go down subdivisional level so I can smooth easier. Go back up. And so there's a little hit, I like to call it. And you just pull this out right here. And this is a bit too much, so I'm going to pull that back out. And I'm going to frame the knee. So I'm going to fix the groin area again. And I'm going to add some of these leg muscles. So I'm going to go this way. Add that, right? So we're looking for this shape. And so at a 45-degree angle or close to it, I'm going to add another hit right here. And follow that up. And it goes into the hip, right? Or right here into the great trochanter. Okay. And so then I'm going to take that in. Okay. And so this muscle right here, this quad right here, when I'm looking at it, when I'm looking at it from here, I should be able to see it because the hamstring doesn't come out that far, right? Fill this hamstring back in. Right, so we're going to add a bit of beef right here into the front of the leg, and it's going to end pretty close to the knee, and that's where this muscle comes in, right? So now that we have this depression here, on each side of the groin, I'm going to draw a line straight down. Alrighty, so goes into there, right? And so I just want to work on this leg, right? Because this is getting in the way and I can't see in here. So I just want a better view. So I'm going to turn symmetry off. Hold, get my select rectangle or any selection tool that you wish, and just grab this leg. So I'm going to push this back. So you see how far back that goes? And then it goes into there. That goes into there. Okay. And so peak is down here, and what I wanted is more up here. Then we're going to go down each side of the knee. And I'm going to get my, what is it, clay buildup. Dig that in. Dig in each side of the knee. Then it connects to the shin. Smooth that out. Okay. So now we can build up that hip flexor. Establish our greater canter, get a bit more. Now we need a bit of inner thigh. So that comes, it attaches to your pelvic bone. It should be something like that. Smooth it out. It's pretty much flat. Now I'm going to get my form soft brush and try to pull that out a bit towards where it's connecting to the pelvic bone. Right? And then that area. Now we can build this hamstring back in. Okay. So now I'm going to look at this. I think I need to beef up the outside of the Achilles heel. So we're going to take the 45-degree rule again, right? What is that? This 90, right? Right about there. So pull that out and that out. Right? All right, so now the hamstring comes in, goes in, and frames the calf, goes around that bone. On this side, this inner thigh comes in and goes to the ends, goes right here underneath the, right underneath the knee, right here. And the rest is framed. Okay. Bring that down. And around the bone. So the problem here is that we need to bring all of this front stuff in. And then bring out this calf. Make sure it tapers off well. Smooth it out. Now the inside is going to be higher than the outside on this ankle bone. And I'm going to wrap that in there. Smooth this out. Dig this in. And we're going to add this muscle right here. Goes down. Goes into the foot. Look at the foot. Gotta have the smaller heel. 45-degree rule. Move all that into place. Oops, move all this into place. Because if anything, move the muscles according to the structure of the bone. Never move bone into some shape you made. Alrighty, so I'm going to get my clay buildup. I'm going to fix this form here because it's looking really weird. Oh, there we go. There, build this up, smooth it out. Then I want to eat away at this. So sculpting isn't all about building up. You can also dig in to get what you're looking for. And so this is coming out a bit too much for my liking, so I'm going to bring that in. And pull the outsides out. So it's pretty ugly anatomy right now. Especially right here. So I'm going to fix that before we end the session. So what it is that this is going out when it should be going in and flowing with this shape right here. So I'm going to grab my move brush and move that over to the side. I'm going to look at it from this angle. I'm going to widen this part a bit. Out. And this is way too long, this muscle. And it's a little too front heavy, so I'm going to cut it off right there. Smooth it off. And fill in this area a bit. And dig in. And I'm going to beef this up a bit, this little center muscle right here. And okay. So looking at it from the side, this shape right here. So what should be happening is we have the glutes, right? Then we have the hamstrings coming out from there. Glutes end, attach to the greater trochanter. It's a bit large. It's a bit strong. Do you know what I mean, Leo? Do you know what I mean? Right, so we got that. Glute ends. My form soft brush. Reinforce that shape. Okay. And That depression's a bit too much for me liking. I don't know why I'm doing a lot of British talking, but we're doing that. That's your world for the next 6 minutes. And so what we need to do is beef up this area and then smooth it down. What I'm looking for is a little so instead right now it's just tink tink. Okay. So I'm going to pull this out a bit more, especially towards the top, and then smooth out the transition. It's much better. Okay. So we got 5 more minutes, and I'm going to give you a quick knee tutorial, and then we're going to go. We're going to call it a day for you for now. Okay. So we have this muscle coming down right here. Right? Turning forward. On each side of that, we have pretty much a cylinder. So you can draw a cylinder, grab your trim dynamic, get it flat. Okay? On each side of the knee. Right? So build it up, try to get it on the same. So if you want to check yourself before you wreck yourself, son, you say that's right in the center. Do it right here. Smooth it out. Get my trim dynamic. And then you got that on each side of the knee. And then below the center of that, actually at the bottom of that is the knee. Okay. Everything else here is just tendon. So you can smooth that down. What we're looking for is like a little badge right here. And badge of the knee. There's a little, the quad right here is going to rest right on top of that cylinder we just made. And then a little tendon goes down. But in between that is a pretty big depression. So we're going to mark that in with our trim dynamic, smooth it out. Now we got a little wobble here. We're going to fix that. Smooth it out. Okay. So from the side, this should all be going in. So what we're not, this is already going in and up. I don't want to keep bringing it in because then it's going to look weird. So instead of doing that, I'm going to build out the hamstrings and where they connect, right? So we got this tendon right here. It's going to connect right, there's going to be a little ball right here. So we're going to mark that, smooth it out. And we're going to have this little tendon. So it's not out far enough, so I'm going to use my move brush and do that. And then I'm going to, oops. And I'm going to mark this in. It might be right, it might not be right, but I know that I'm marking in my anatomy correctly. Okay. And so now my calves, tendons that are going to attach to the bone, and then 2 slanted eggs right here. And the slant is high in the back, low in the front. Smooth it out. From here, that's coming from inside the bone, right here, right? So I would say the problem with this calf is it's just a little bit too far out. Too far out, man. You gotta bring it back to reality, man. It's too far out. Right? Let's smooth all this out. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. And so now I've made all this, and I'm gonna bring everything back. I'm like, what the F? I gotta get this on over here, dude. What's going on, man? So we're going to mark this, right? We're gonna go back, mask it, and then we're going to deformation, smart resim. Lord, thank you for smart resim. And there we go. So now what's on the right goes on the left, right? So bring symmetry back, and now we've got our legs pretty much marked in. A few more shapes like that one right there. Right. That's what we got so far. Okay. And I spent more time on the legs because you were having problems with that, according to your posts. Move that. So you see this highlight? I want that originating from here. This is forward, attaching to our hip. Here. Go, smooth this out. Alright, so let's get some basic shapes here in the tricep. Straight to the elbow. Move this in. Elbow goes in. That's towards the bottom third of the arm. Alrighty, Julio. If you can take the legs and the back, everything I've sculpted to that level, then we can work on some more stuff. Alright? So hopefully you can take this step by step, because I mumbled straight through it. But hopefully it helps you. And fix this chest area, okay? Alright. Thanks, Julio.